Hello plant tribe and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Nikki. This is my channel, Plants, Pots, and Whatnots. And for those of you returning, it is lovely to see you. Now, we are starting a whole new venture here on my channel. So, I have always liked succulents. Succulents is actually one of the things that got me into YouTube. Well, it is the thing that got me doing YouTube. And I have kind of strayed away from them recently. You know, I found all these aeroids and the obsession is real. But I'm taking it back to my roots, my YouTube roots a little bit here. And I wanted to do, I know that succulents are a hugely popular plant, and I've had quite a few people reach out to me recently in regards to succulent care and lighting and all of that kind of thing. So I thought I would put together a series on succulents. So that is what we're gonna do starting today. Every Wednesday, I will be posting a new succulent video. So we are going to start from the very basics. Like I said, this is a succulents 101. So we're going to start from what are succulents, what do they look like, you know, that kind of thing. We're kind of going to then dive into care for them, watering, light requirements, soil requirements. I will show you how to water. I will show you what kind of light they require. I will show you how to propagate and all of the things that succulents encompass. So that's the plan. So today we are just going to start off with the super basics. What are succulents? Why they're so popular? And kind of go from there. So I hope that you will enjoy this little series. This will be in addition to my regular videos. So my regular videos will still come out every 3 days or so. And these succulent videos are kind of like a bonus video that will come out every Wednesday. So if that sounds like something you'd like to stick around and watch, then by all means stick around and watch, and let's talk succulents. Okay, so let's start off with what the heck is a succulent? I've been hearing all about them. Nikki, please tell me what a succulent is. If you don't know what a succulent is, I have a few examples here for you of all kinds of different types, as well as different stages of problems and that kind of thing. So I kind of gathered a mismatch of a bunch of different succulents that I have. This is by no means my entire collection, but the table's only so big. So, what is a succulent? Let's start there. So a succulent is a plant that retains a large amount of water in its leaves and its stems. Typically they come from a more dry climate, places like Mexico, potentially the southern states, but don't quote me on that. I didn't do all of the background research on succulents. I figured it wasn't as necessary of information to pass along to you. But succulents actually encompass a wide variety of different plants. So you have ones such as this guy that you can see right here, which is an echeveria, who is very etiolated, may I add, if you hadn't noticed that already. And we will touch on that and what that means a little bit later. So you have echeveria, you have aloe, you have these guys, which I believe are crassula. I'm not 100% sure on all of the different types, so that's not something that I'm diving into today by any means. Some of them I know, but there's so many different varieties, and I just haven't dove that far in. Anyways, so yeah, echeverias, haworthia, aloe, crassula, sempervivums, graptosedums, kalanchoe, also considered a succulent, I believe. Cacti are considered a succulent. We're not going to dive too much into the other succulents. We're going to kind of stick to the ones that you can kind of see here in front of me. The ones that people like to, you know, do arrangements with and that kind of thing. So that's what we're kind of sticking to in this series. I'm not going to dive a whole lot into cacti. I may occasionally mention cacti, but for the most part, we're sticking to the guys that you see here in front of me. So why succulents? Why are they so popular? I see them everywhere. They're on shirts, they're on pins, they're on everywhere. They're everywhere. You go to Walmart, you go to Canadian Tire, you go to Home Depot, and these things are everywhere. There's a reason why these things are as popular as they are. You know, some of the varieties in front of me, I'm sure, can give you a clue as to why they are as popular as they are. I'm just going to get rid of my wine here. Cheers. Okay, so one of the first things and the most obvious thing is the colors they come in. You can see this Echeveria Pearl von Nuremberg. I can't get too close to the camera. When at all possible, I'll try to insert footage so you guys can see a closer view of what these look like. But they come in these gorgeous pinks and blues and purples and greens. And so they're great for, you know, things like arrangements. And we'll dive more into all of the different things that you can do with succulents that maybe you wouldn't even have thought of. So this one, and I'm not sure the name of this one, but like, look at the color. How beautiful is that? And I hope the camera is picking up some of the color here. We have this guy here, which I believe is a Graptosetum, but it's yellow and it's so pretty. And then you have these beautiful green ones, and they have this coating on them that actually protects them from the sun. Not all of them, but a lot of Echeverias have that. And the one thing that I will tell you, and you may have heard otherwise, but I will tell you the truth. So some Echeverias, like this guy, and some of the others have this powdery coating, like I said, that protects them from the sun. And when you're working with succulents, you want to try to avoid touching the leaf. Try to work as much as you can with the roots, because that coating doesn't come back after it's been wiped off. So you'll get little fingerprints on it, and that kind of thing. And it kind of deters from the beauty of the plant, because a lot of what gives those Echeverias that beautiful coloring is really that powdery coating. So there's just a little side tip for you. So other things that make these wildly popular is, you've probably heard they're super easy to take care of. You know, they're great for people who forget to water plants, because they ask very, very little of you. They also have these really cool shapes. So there's you can see just the variety that I have here in front of me. So we have these guys, which tend to grow a little bit taller. We have the Echeveria Pearl von Nuremberg. Like I said, it doesn't normally grow like this, but I did bring this out for a reason, just so you can, we'll get there. I'm getting ahead of myself. We have the Kalanchoe, or the panda plant, which has these beautiful soft leaves, and literally they're soft, they're super fuzzy. So I actually have two of those. I believe this one is Chocolate Soldier or something like that. And then here is the other one. I have some little ones down in the front here. So these are Echeverias. They have these tight little rosette shapes. You have ones that are, get this out here, kind of spiky, and it has the beautiful red tips. This one I did bring out for a specific purpose, and I will tell you that probably further on in the series, but you can see these markings here. That's actually leaf burn. You're over there. Hi. And we'll get into that. So this is a Haworthia. I think they call them a glass top. I can't remember the actual term, or the actual name of the plant. Anyways, whatever. There's these guys which are just beautiful. These are one of my favorites. The color on that, if it's coming off on camera, I'm not sure, but it's absolutely beautiful. We have this guy, which I believe is a kalanchoe of some kind, but these are great for filling in gaps and stuff like that in arrangements, kind of like you would use like baby's breath or like filler. What else do we have here? Let's squish in here. We have this guy who is just beautiful. It looks like a rose. So pretty. We have this guy who's probably one of the more familiar ones that you may recognize. That is the jade, a crassula jade. And then we have this guy, which is, I believe, a type of aloe. But this guy is cool. He's got these little spikies in this. Now I may be dating myself, but if you guys have ever seen the movie Tremors, that kind of reminds me of, you know, the Tremor guys. And then we have, oh, and they're really sharp and pokey. We have this guy who is beautiful in arrangements. It really gives you that pop of color and brightens the arrangement. We have this little guy that is, I believe it's called a crassula watch. It's a watch chain. I think it's a crassula. He's really cool too. We have this guy, which I think is called an agavoides. I could be wrong, but I think it's called a Romeo. But he is really cool. And with more light, this guy gets like almost like pure red. It's really neat. And then we have ones like this that are more trailers, as in trailing down. So you can see him there. Now also what fits in here, and I actually didn't have one handy, but I'm sure you guys are familiar with all of this string of plants. So your string of pearls, your string of pearls, your string of bananas, your string of dolphins, string of beads, string of tears, you know, all those strings. Those are great ones as well, especially when you're creating arrangements, because when creating arrangements, and we will get into actual arrangement making and you know, how to do that and what looks good and that kind of thing. But when you're creating arrangements, you want a range of things, right? So you want the thriller, so that would be your big one. So maybe one of these, or maybe, you know, something with some height that kind of anchors the arrangement. And then you want some of your shorter ones, so that's when you kind of fill in with, you know, some of these beautiful little rosette types like that. And then you want your spiller. So your spiller is something that spills over the side of the pot and kind of creates, you know, breaks that line on the pot and gives it like a, yeah, just breaks the line on the pot. It looks really nice having something trailing over the edge. So plants like that, and like your string of plants, are perfect for that. So I know there's so many to choose from. So you're sitting there going, but where do I start, Nikki? Which ones do I need? What do I like? What do I want? Well, I'm hoping to help you answer some of those questions throughout this series. And, you know, next thing you know, you will be an amazing succulent plant parent. So let's just jump in. So like any plant, we're going to start with just the ease of growing these guys. But with any plant that you purchase, it's always best if you know how to care for that plant. And once you get a general idea of how to care for that plant, you would be surprised at how easy the most difficult plants can be. Succulents are no exception. So once you have a general idea of where they come from and what type of plant they are, and how to water them and what kind of light they require, these are extremely easy plants to care for. The cool thing is there's pretty much a succulent for any type of home environment, for different lighting situations. So, you know, you have ones that tend to be more of the green varieties that can handle actually a medium light situation, which is really nice for, you know, people that really want succulents, but they don't have that crazy high light. Again, unless you get like a grow light, and we will dive into grow lights in this video, not in this video, down the line. We'll probably get a little bit more into grow lights. I'll do just a video on my lighting and stuff like that. But yeah, so they're definitely easy plants to grow, really easy to propagate. They take a little longer than you know, your tropical plants or your regular indoor plants to propagate, but definitely worth it. One plant can make you many other succulents, which is super cool. And it's a very interesting process, and we will dive into propagation in a later video. So like I stated before, one of the really cool parts about succulents is that they are extremely drought tolerant. So like I said, they come from dry climates where rain tends to come few and far between. So they can go weeks at a time with no water at all. There are a few of these that I haven't watered in a month, and you'd never know it. So they do obviously require water. But for underwaterers, if you're an underwater and you tend to forget plants, you know, these are perfect for you because you can not water them for a while and they will be quite content with that. In fact, a lot of them prefer that. So the cool part about that is, you know, for people who travel a lot but still want plants in their home, you can go away on vacation for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, and you're gonna come home, and provided your succulents have the required light, they're gonna look exactly like they looked when you came back. And that's not something typical for if you're a collector of houseplants. You know, you don't water them for 2 weeks and you look at them and they're like, and they're drooping and they're shriveling and that kind of thing. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, these guys will show you signs of underwatering. Some more than others. Some require more water, some require less water. So I will say that when you do purchase your succulents, that you do a little bit of research, find out. Some are winter dormant, some are summer dormant. So when you're buying a succulent, and we'll get into like what to look for and that kind of thing, but you definitely want to do your research on what kind of succulent you're buying. So these have actually, because of their ability to be drought tolerant, they've become crazy popular for like weddings and things like that. A lot of people are opting to use succulents for bouquets, boutonnieres, table arrangements, because they can be designed or put together days in advance, and on the day of the wedding they still look beautiful, which you can't do with a regular cut flower arrangement. They will quickly deteriorate. So, you know, florists and that kind of thing, when you're creating succulent arrangements, you can actually prepare days in advance, and still on the day of the wedding, these guys will be beautiful. I will do an entire video on arrangements. We're gonna do a whole bunch of different arrangements. I'm gonna show you guys all kinds of different things that you can do with these, like wall hangings, bouquets, boutonnieres, an actual arrangement, all the different pots and things that you can use, all kinds of really fun stuff. So I'm really excited about this series because I'm going to get to do things with succulents that I haven't really done at all lately. I've been so focused on my tropicals. But you know what? Sitting here with this table full of beautiful, colorful succulents is really getting my creative juices flowing. And that's one of the really fun things about these, is you can arrange them. You know, if you get bored with it in a couple months, take it apart, use them in another arrangement. So much fun. So much you can do with these. So another thing that makes succulents really popular is their ease of propagation. Like I said, I will do a video on propagation. We're just doing all the basics today. So succulents are really easy to propagate, albeit a little bit slower than a lot of the plants that you may be used to. but easy nonetheless. And you can propagate them many different ways. Some types of succulents are a little bit quicker to root and grow than others, but generally they're pretty easy nonetheless. So like I said, you can have one plant and it can turn into many plants. So you get like 10 for the price of one. That's a screaming deal. I don't care who you are. So some of the cool things that you can do with succulents and that you can't do with a lot of other plants is that they really are a decor piece. So they're cool because you can use different containers, like odd containers, things that you wouldn't typically think, oh, I'll put a plant in that. Like teacups, like wooden shoes. I actually have one that I did way back when, and it was this red wooden shoe, and it was really cool. You know, pretty much anything that you can put things in, you can grow succulents in. And we'll get more into how that works a little bit down the road. But it just gives you an option of using your succulents as more of a decor piece when you can use all kinds of different containers to put them in. Another thing that you can do with succulents that's really cool is use them for actual artwork, like on your wall. You can create a living art in a frame and hang these on your wall. I haven't done this yet, but I will be doing it in this series, and I'm really excited to do that and to show you guys how to do that and what it looks like. It's so super cool, and it's definitely a conversation piece when somebody walks into your home, you know, rather than the paintings and things that you normally would have on your wall. It really does draw the eye, and it's just something really unique. You can also use succulents to create like topiaries and that kind of thing. So you can do like little balls on a stick, or you can do little balls, hang them, all kinds of different options. Basically any shape that you can possibly think of, you can make, you know, succulent arrangements from. Like wreaths. Wreaths are really cool, and they're actually quite popular to do, like a succulent wreath, which is another thing that I really want to try. I actually have, like I said, I do have more succulents than this, and I do have a bunch of plugs coming, which are basically like a small, it's kind of like this. It comes bare root or with no root, just as a cutting. And they're just tiny little things, and those are great for doing things like wreaths and topiaries and that sort of thing. So yeah, and obviously you can do floral arrangements with those. I do have one here that I just had still put together. So I'll show you that. So it's got a little fairy tale cactus or fairy castle cactus, a little crassula, and then just some succulents in the front there, and decorated with some little rocks. So that's just a tiny one that I have. You can also make jewelry out of succulents. I don't know if you've seen these. I'll try to grab a couple photos and put them here. I'm not sure if that's something that I want to do. Who knows? Maybe I will. Actually, I might do that because it sounds fun, and I might even wear them. Okay, so yeah, you can do all kinds of things with that, and as this series progresses, I will show you how to do all of those things. Okay, so let's just go into basic care. So we're gonna start with lighting. Now, unless you live in the South, someplace where it's hot and dry the majority of the time, you're probably growing your succulents indoors. And there's definitely a few things that you need to know about growing succulents indoors before you get started. Now, I have seen some amazing gardens that are down in like California that are basically succulent gardens, and I am here for it. They are beautiful. These big, huge echeverias and these giant, massive agaves and cacti, and oh my goodness, it is just something to see for sure. But for the majority of people, I believe, that watch my videos, we're probably going to be growing our succulents indoors, and there is definitely a difference growing them indoors as opposed to outdoors. So let's start with lighting. We're just gonna go through the very basics of lighting, water, and I think that's about it for this video. And then we'll just kind of go into depth next Wednesday about some other things. So, because these come from dry, hot climates, and because they are a succulent plant, as I explained before, they hold a lot of water in their leaves. Most of these plants require a lot of light. So if you're growing them indoors, for the majority of the year, you can put these outside come, late spring, early summer, when the temperature starts to, they like above 18 degrees, and from about 27, 26 degrees, so somewhere in between there. That's Celsius. I don't have anything to do the conversion to Fahrenheit, but if you guys need to know, you can look that up. But they do require, most of them require high light situation. Now, you don't want these out in the bright hot sun, like late afternoon sun constantly, because they will burn. And I did bring them out here to show you. So if you look at this guy, you can see the dark right there. That's leaf burn. So this succulent is green, and like I mentioned to you before, the more green succulents can handle lower light because there's more chlorophyll in them. So those particular succulents you'll probably not want in bright direct light for very long. They can definitely handle it for a couple hours, but I would say like a bright indirect light for those ones would be best. The best lighting that you can give these guys is 4 to 6 hours of morning light, but that really harsh light in the afternoon is just far too much for most of the plants that I've got here. They will burn, and then you get that ugly kind of look, and there's no going back from that. You can't fix that once it happens. You just kind of have to wait for new leaves to grow in, basically. So before you buy a succulent, you really want to kind of assess your situation at home in your apartment or your house and see what kind of light you have. Do you have all north windows or northeast windows, or do you have a lot of really great southwest light coming into your home? If you have more muted light coming into your home, I would probably lean more towards the more green echeverias, or your haworthias, your sansevierias, aloe, jade, those kinds of things. The ones that are a little bit more green can, like I said, handle less light. If you have higher light, like southwest light, you can definitely start getting into the more colorful varieties, like the beautiful rosette echeverias and those kinds of things. So really, before you go shopping for succulents, really think about what your lighting scenario is. If you want these beautiful colored succulents, but you just don't have the proper windows or natural light in your home, you can definitely consider diving into the grow light world. I do have a video, I will link it up here, on all of the different grow lights that I have. I will probably be doing an updated grow light video because I have tried some new ones recently that I really like, that I really do want to include. So I don't know when that'll come out, but it's in the works. But yeah, so if you want to do succulents inside and you don't have highlight, definitely invest in a grow light. You don't have to have those pink and purple grow lights. They have some great options now that are more of a natural, aesthetically pleasing light that looks more like a light that you would just have in your home for aesthetics or brightening your home, rather than those pink and purple grow lights that looks like you have a grow up in your house. All of my lights in my house that I have, all the grow lights, are all natural white light, full spectrum grow lights, with the exception of the light that I have in my greenhouse. I do have the pink, blue, and purple lights in my greenhouse. But it's really personal preference. If you don't mind that grow op look or that like disco rave look in your house, then by all means. I just find it really hard on the eyes. And even after working in my greenhouse, arranging things for a matter of like 5 minutes, my eyes are already hurting and I have a headache. So, all personal preference, either works, but you want to make sure that you have something with a high foot candle output so that these guys don't stretch. So I mentioned earlier that I have, I'll just move these aside. So we'll take this one for example because it's right here, and I also have this guy here that you can see is very stretched out, and I let these guys stretch out because I knew I was doing this video and I wanted examples. So you can see that this is very, if you compare, say, this tight little rosette to this, you can see that it's very different. This succulent should kind of look like this, but much more flat, so kind of more like this, right? But what succulents do if they're not getting enough light is they will stretch, just like a lot of plants will. A lot of plants will turn their leaves to get the sunlight or lean towards the sunlight. Well, succulents are no different. The difference is it will stretch out and there's no going back from that. You can't like squish it back down. Your only option will be, and we will get into this when we get into the propagation portion of this series, would be to chop it right here and then replant it back down in the soil so you have a more stout, tight plant. So that is one thing to consider. So definitely you want to know your lighting, you want to know your space. You also want to know what your willingness to bend for your plants is. So I think that's all I wanted to mention about lighting. If I've missed anything at any point, or you have any questions and you're like, hey Nikki, but what about this, or can I do this? Please reach out to me, throw it down in the comments. Here's my Instagram. I love the questions and that kind of thing. So by all means, feel free to ask away. And I will always tell you, if I don't know something, I will find out. I do have quite a bit of experience with succulents, but I am by no means a professional succulent grower. I just can tell you what I have learned through growing them and propagating them and arranging them, etc. So let's dive into water. Again, they are drought tolerant plants. They don't require a whole lot of water. In fact, they get really nasty when you overwater. Underwatering, not so bad. When you underwater a plant, and I don't know if I have any examples here. Shoot. I don't. They're all perfectly watered. So if you're underwatering, this guy's actually gonna start being underwatered soon. So you'll notice that the leaves will start to curl down. If they don't get the water they require, the bottom leaves will crisp and they will fall off, or you'll have to pluck them off. So that's how you know if you're underwatering. If you're, and that you can recover from. So you may lose a couple leaves on the bottom. Oh well, who cares? Big deal. However, if you overwater a succulent, there's no coming back from that. Again, because they retain all of that water in the leaf, what happens is it will get stem rot that turns into, well, it'll get root rot, which turns into stem rot, which turns into leaf rot. And literally before your eyes, the plant will just melt into a squishy, disgusting puddle of goo. I wish I had one to show you actually. I've had a couple succulents do that on me in my beginning stages of succulent parenthood. And it's not pretty. It's really disgusting. And so that's one of the big things that I can tell you is don't always err on the side of caution and underwater. If you have a moisture meter, that is ideal. You can just kind of pop that into the soil, and you want to wait until it says like 0, like super dry, like mega dry. Unlike with a lot of your tropical plants, you want to wait until like a 3 to 4, depending on the plant and that kind of thing, where the soil is mostly dry. With succulents, you want to make sure that it is completely dry. Like I said, there's no coming back from rot. With any luck, you may be able to save a couple leaves, but why take the risk, right? So, one of the things that I water with, and I swear by this thing, and I didn't grab it. Hold on. Okay, there are 2 things that I use actually to water my succulents. This is the first one. So this is just a large syringe. So you can suck the water up, and it just gives you more of a directed water stream. You have a little bit more control. Watering, if you're gonna water your succulents, obviously if they're outside, it's harder to avoid, but you don't want the water coming directly down on top of the leaf, or on top of the plant, because what will happen, and especially inside, not so much outside because you have the wind and you have the sun to dry them, but inside, if you water from the top, the water will sit down in that crown and you'll get crown rot. So it will literally rot from the middle outwards, which I've also done. Equally as nasty. Oh, here's a couple little dried leaves. Just pluck those off. Anyways, so yeah, try to avoid crown rot, and that's what's really great about these. This is the one that I always use. I love this little bottle. It is linked down in my description. I swear by this thing. I use it for my moss poles on my tropical plants, and I use it to water all of my succulents. So the best thing to do, fill your little bottle up, and I'll use this one as an example. So rather than water on top, you can use this to get down in there and just squeeze and water the root ball itself. You don't need to drench these things. I mean, if it's a really fast draining soil mix, and we will get into soil mix in the next video, and I will show you exactly what I do to make my succulent soil. You want a really fast draining mix anyways, but they don't, like if you have, where am I going with this? If you have a really well draining soil mix, you want to water it all the way through so that it comes out the bottom. But if you have it in arrangements, or God forbid you have it in a container that does not have a drainage hole, which you can do, but it's not recommended, and we will get into in a later video into the types of containers and that kind of thing that you can use. But just a little bit of water on the root ball is really all they require, and they will be completely fine. Like you can see my succulents, I mean, that's all I do to them, and they're lovely. So I will highly recommend these or this. You can get smaller ones if you want, but if you are a succulent parent, these, I mean, they're an essential. In my opinion, they're an essential. Yeah. So I think that's all we're going to touch on today. I really hope that you got some helpful information. Like I said, this is a very beginner's series, and we will, as the series goes on, we'll dive into a little bit more of the advanced kind of stuff. But I just wanted to start with the basics. What are succulents, their basic requirements, and kind of go from there. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, by all means, let me know. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. Throw some comments down there in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. I like, you know, talking to you guys in the comments. It's so much fun for me. And let me know what you thought. So also, any questions? I think I said that already, but any questions that you have, maybe what I'll do is any questions that you have from this video, I will address at the beginning of the next video. And that way everybody gets to hear the answer, because not everybody reads all the comments. So if I'm answering questions in the comments, I'll still like the comment just so that you know I read it, but know that I will address your actual question in next Wednesday's video, just so that you kind of, you know, your question can be answered to everybody. So yeah, that is the end of episode 1 of Succulents 101 here on Plants, Pots, and Whatnots. I love you guys all to bitty bits. Have a great day, night, week, month, year, and I will see you in the next one. Mwah!